What do you think about the version of Jesus who made a whip and started turning over tables? Because that Jesus is in the Bible too. We're continuing to study the book of John, and today we're in John chapter 2, verse 13 through 17. John tells us the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And when Jesus enters the temple, he finds people selling oxen, sheep, and pigeons, and money changers sitting everywhere. Now here's some important context. People traveling to Jerusalem for Passover needed animals for sacrifice, and money changing served a practical purpose. So the problem wasn't simply that animals were being sold and money was being exchanged. The issue was what God's house had become. John chapter 2 verse 15 says, "In making a whip of cords, he drove them out of the temple with the sheep and oxen." Then Jesus pours out the coins all over the ground and overturns the tables. Sometimes we picture Jesus as though he's always quiet, soft-spoken, and never confrontational. But that's not the Jesus that John shows us here. Jesus is loving. Jesus is compassionate. He's full of grace. But Jesus is also holy, and holiness confronts what dishonors God. Then Jesus says, "Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade." Notice those words, my Father's house. Once again, John is revealing something about Jesus' identity. This isn't just another worshiper walking into the temple and getting upset. The Son has entered his Father's house, and his disciples remember Psalm 69:9. "Zeal for your house will consume me." That word zeal carries the idea of an intense passion. Jesus cared deeply about the honor of his Father's house. And here's where this passage should challenge us. We love talking about Jesus' grace, and we should. But we can't separate his grace from his holiness. The same Jesus who turned water into wine also turned tables over. So maybe the question isn't simply what would Jesus forgive? Maybe we also need to ask, what would Jesus overturn in my life because it doesn't belong there? But the religious leaders are about to challenge him. What sign do you show us for doing these things? And Jesus gives them an answer they completely misunderstand. Destroy this temple, and in 3 days, I will raise it up. What does that mean? That's where we're going next. This is a study of John.